Welcome, senior leaders, to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into something absolutely crucial: your responsibility in establishing robust protection from sexual exploitation and abuse, or PSEA systems. It's really fantastic to have you here. Look, as leaders, you hold the ultimate authority in the environments where the UN operates. So today, we're breaking down the exact systems, networks, and action plans you need to ensure are functioning at absolute peak capacity to protect the most vulnerable. Let's get right to it. Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. Avoiding the PSEA scramble. 2. Key systems and measures. 3. Building the PSEA network. 4. Setting strategic priorities. And finally, 5. Assessing the action plan. All right, Section 1, avoiding the PSEA scramble. We're going to start with a pretty stark scenario that really highlights why your proactive leadership matters so much right out of the gate. I really want you to ask yourself this. What actually happens on the ground when an allegation drops and your response system is weak, or worse, completely broken? Just take a second to visualize that. An incident occurs, and literally nobody knows who is supposed to do what. Well, it leads to what we call the scramble. Think of crisis response sort of like a medical golden hour. When we lose that crucial initial window to confusion about policies and procedures, the damage this compounds. It becomes this sudden, totally disorganized rush to provide services for the survivor, all mixed up with uncertainty about interagency roles. And let's be absolutely clear, when we scramble, we fail the victims. We risk causing even more harm, and we completely fail to hold perpetrators accountable. Now, you might be thinking, doesn't my technical team handle this? And yes, while your PSEA personnel handle the day-to-day work, the ultimate responsibility for ensuring these systems actually exist and function, that falls squarely on your shoulders. But honestly, this is where you get to be truly impactful. You are the safeguard against the scramble. Your mandate is to cultivate these strong, effective networks before a crisis ever hits, making sure your teams have the exact frameworks they need. Moving on to Section 2, Key Systems and Measures. Let's map out what a fully functioning PSE ecosystem actually looks like in the real world. This right here is the comprehensive map of the systems you've got to establish. It breaks down into 4 main pillars: prevention, reporting, assistance for victims, and accountability. Look at prevention. It's not just some dusty policy on a shelf. It requires systematic vetting and mandatory training to really shift workplace culture. For reporting, you need clear, accessible mechanisms like community-based complaint networks. Then we have assistance. This means solid, immediate referral pathways to get survivors the psychological, medical, and legal help they need right away. And finally, accountability. Having dedicated procedures for swift, totally impartial investigations. As a leader, you need to look at this whole ecosystem and ask yourself, are all 4 of these pillars standing strong in my operational context? Section 3, building the PSEA network. Because, let's be real, a system is literally only as good as the people coordinating it. Here's how this interagency structure efficiently delegates tasks. At the very top, you've got the PSCA chair and co-chair who oversee the country-level action plan. Right below them is the PSCA coordinator. That's a full-time interagency role. And then you have your PSCA focal points from every single member organization, whether that's UN, INGO, or NGO. These focal points are the vital links on the ground, sharing information and coordinating activities under senior management's guidance. This is the team you're building. But here's the catch. You can't just build this machine and walk away. You have to actively oversee it. That means requesting regular reports to verify things are actually working in practice, not just in theory. You step in with strategic guidance when they hit roadblocks. You champion their initiatives by actually showing up at network events. And this is absolutely crucial. You need to make sure PSEA is a standing agenda item at all UN country team or humanitarian country team meetings. It has to be front and center. And beyond the boardroom, your role requires you to engage peer leaders. Talk to them, share your experiences, and push for those shared commitment letters across the country team. You also need to enforce PSCA minimum operating standards within your own organization. Oh, and here is a massive game changer. Authorize unannounced field audits, especially in areas with heightened risks like remote locations or sudden emergencies. You've got to get out there and verify compliance on the ground. Okay, Section 4, setting strategic priorities. Now we're going to break down a highly practical framework from your toolkit, specifically Tool 5, to help you define your strategy. Tool 5 is brilliant because it outlines a super straightforward step-by-step process. Step 1, assess your gaps and risks. Where are the blind spots? Step 2, look at your current capacities and resources across those 4 core areas we talked about earlier. Once you have that data, step 3 is where you lead. You pick just 3 to 5 high-impact strategic priorities. Maybe it's expanding support services into remote areas or funding a full-time coordinator. Whatever it is, keep it focused, keep it high impact, and secure buy-in from everyone involved. Finally, Section 5, Assessing the Action Plan. This is your ultimate quality control checklist before you ever give your final sign-off. So the first half of Tool 6 asks you to verify a few key things. Under integration, you're checking if the plan actually covers prevention, reporting, assistance, and accountability. Next, you make sure it aligns with those 3 to 5 strategic priorities you just set. Then you look at context-specific considerations to make sure you're addressing the unique vulnerabilities of the actual people you're serving. And finally, lessons learned. Are we actually learning from the past or just repeating the same old mistakes? The second half of Tool 6 focuses on the reality check. First up, is it genuinely victim-centered? Does it guarantee support for survivors? Next, community involvement. Are the communities themselves actually consulted on these reporting mechanisms, or are we just guessing what they want? Then we look at how you'll monitor progress. And lastly, feasibility. Are the activities realistic? And maybe most importantly, is this action plan adequately budgeted? Because we all know a plan without a budget is just a wish list. This table wraps it all up perfectly. Integration, strategy, context, and feasibility. When you filter your action plan through these 4 lenses, you are guaranteeing that your strategy is comprehensive, deeply relevant to your specific environment, well-funded, and truly ready for the real world. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this one pivotal question from your toolkit. Read it with me. Does the action plan prioritize a victim-centered approach, ensuring the rights, dignity, well-being, and safety of victims and survivors? You know, it's so easy to get bogged down in the administrative mechanics, the committees, the budgets, the reports. But this question, this reminds us of the core why. Your administrative diligence exists to guarantee a system that protects the fundamental rights of the people you serve. That's the true weight of your leadership. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll leave you to reflect on this. If a crisis hit your operation tomorrow, would your systems be ready to protect the vulnerable, or would you be scrambling? The choice of what to build today is entirely yours.